From Kewaskum to Germantown, Hartford to Newburgh, and everywhere in between, this is the History is Fun podcast. History is Fun is brought to you by the Washington County Historical Society, whose mission is to educate, preserve, interpret, and provide access to the history of Washington County, Wisconsin through our collections, archives, and programs. Visit us on the web at historyisfun.com. Hello everyone, and welcome to the show. I'm your host, Justin Agar Pratt, and I'm the Education and Public Programs Coordinator at the Tower Heritage Center. If you're new to the channel, hit that subscribe button and click the bell icon to be notified when we upload new videos. This week was a big week in Wisconsin history that ultimately had ripples in the national narrative. Wednesday, June 10th was the 101st anniversary of Wisconsin's ratification of the 19th Amendment, giving women the right to vote. We were the first state to do so. In this week's episode, I want to provide you with a glimpse of just some of the women in our home state who led the charge. So first we need to cover some vocabulary of the movement. Suffrage is the right to vote. Suffragettes were women who fought for the right to vote. Anti-suffragists were people who did not want women to have the right to vote. This image is an engraving of a woman, a suffragette, dressed in costume derived from classic mythology, and underneath, in determined letters, the slogan, "I will vote." This image is from the Wisconsin Historical Society. In 1846, 2 years before the first Women's Rights Convention to be held in the United States, and 2 years before Wisconsin became a state, suffrage for women and African Americans was considered by the Wisconsin constitutional delegates. However, the watered-down version of the Wisconsin Constitution that passed did not include suffrage for white women or African American men and women. In fall 1855, National Suffragette Lucy Stone visited Milwaukee, Madison, and elsewhere in the state. She gave lectures to large audiences which helped increase support for the women's suffrage movement. During the 1860s, suffrage organizations were formed in Fond du Lac, Richland Center, Baraboo, Evansville, Boscobel, and Union Grove. At the Janesville Convention on October 9th and 10th, 1867, steps were taken to form a permanent state organization to work on the women's suffrage movement. The Milwaukee Convention in February 1869 was led by Dr. Laura Ross and Lila Peckham, a lawyer. National suffrage workers Susan B. Anthony and Elizabeth Cady Stanton spoke at the convention, then went on to Madison to address the state legislature. The Wisconsin Women's Suffrage Association was formed following the Milwaukee Convention in 1869. It organized the 50-year campaign for suffrage. In November 1886, school suffrage was given to women. This meant that women should have a right to vote at any election pertaining to school matters. In 1887, the Reverend Olympia Brown, then president of the Wisconsin Women's Suffrage Association, went to court for $5,000 in damage because her vote was refused in a Racine municipal election. It was argued that the election was not directly related to school matters and therefore women could not vote. But Judge John B. Winslow sided with Brown. The state, however, overturned the ruling and changed laws to make the differences between school and municipal suffrage clear. Brown was the first woman in the United States to be an ordained minister, though not without hostility and a fight. An accomplished and powerful speaker, she and hundreds of other women picketed the White House in 1917, demanding a constitutional amendment for women's suffrage from President Woodrow Wilson. New suffragettes spoke out, petitioned, marched, lobbied, wrote articles, and anything necessary to make the need for women's suffrage clear. Older suffragettes didn't like the new suffragettes' methods. This caused a split in the Wisconsin Women's Suffrage Association. Pictured is a group of Wisconsin suffragettes. Theodora Yeomans, fourth from the left, and Ada James is presumed seventh from the left. Let's meet some of the new suffrage leaders. Belle Case La Follette, wife of Robert Fighting Bob La Follette, addresses a group of farmers in Blue Mounds during a tour on the Chautauqua Circuit, during which she frequently spoke about women's suffrage, as pictured on the top left. Ada James of Richland Center, daughter of Senator David G. James, is pictured on the bottom right, with other women's suffrage supporters around 1911 or 1912. James was a leader of the women's suffrage movement in Wisconsin and president of the Political Equality League. Pictured here is Theodora Yeomans of Waukesha, co-editor of the Waukesha Freeman. Theodora was originally from Dodge County, Wisconsin, and after attending Carroll College, started working as a journalist and columnist for the Waukesha Daily Freeman. In 1913, she became editor for the Woman's Citizen, the magazine for the Women's Suffrage Association. When Wisconsin ratified the 19th Amendment in 1919, she marched in the Victory Parade in New York City. In 1912, Wisconsin, among 4 other states, held a referendum on a constitutional amendment for women's suffrage. It was defeated in Wisconsin. Late in 1917, New York State granted women the freedom to vote, a huge victory that paved the way for a federal amendment. Congress passed a suffrage amendment, but states needed to ratify or accept the amendment. On June 10th, 1919, Wisconsin's legislature voted to accept the amendment 77-3. It was the first state to ratify the amendment. On August 26, 1920, the 19th Amendment became law. In this photo, suffragettes surround former Wisconsin State Senator David G. James of Richland Center in 1919 as he holds Wisconsin's ratification of the 19th Amendment to the U.S. Constitution. Now, let's head over to the Curator's Corner. You'll notice from the image of this nickel that Wednesday, June 10th was another milestone anniversary. It marked the 125th anniversary of the first meeting of the Village of Kewaskum. May 1st was the anniversary of their incorporation. Have you ever heard the phrase, "don't take any wooden nickels"? The phrase refers to the consumer being wary of being taken for a fool and accepting wooden coins instead of real coins. As early as 1888, wooden nickels or tokens were issued by merchants to be redeemed for free or reduced merchandise. During the Great Depression, some banks issued wooden nickels with expiration dates to aid merchants in making change when metal coins were scarce. In recent years, the wooden nickel has become a common souvenir. The nickels in this photo were created in 1995 to commemorate the 100th anniversary of the incorporation of the Village of Kewaskum. Happy 125th anniversary, Kewaskum! I hope you enjoyed this glimpse of Wisconsin's role in a historic movement. As I said last week, the nature of these videos will continue to evolve now that we have reopened and our organization is entering a new era. Stay tuned and be well. Bye now.